Hey guys, my name is Zach.
I'm Sheldon.
I'm Catherine.
And this is the Film Rush, or at least that's the tentative title that we're working with for now.
Today it's Film Rush.
It's today. That it could be something completely different next week.
We could hate this.
So the movie we saw today was The Hobbit, which I think we were
midnight
all,
release.
Yes, we're all really excited about this movie. What do we think, just straight off the bat, compared to Lord of the Rings, compared to Fellowship?
Oh, okay. For me, I definitely like The Hobbit more.
Really?
Oh, I did because I thought that it was a lot more fun, and what I've heard constantly about the books as well is that Lord of the Rings is harder for you to engage in right off the bat. Like, you have to know you're going into an investment, as opposed to The Hobbit just being right away. It's fun. This
definitely feels more like a, I don't want to say a family film. I think much inspired by the Avengers, and with all these big, huge tales being told, to factor in a lot more humor. I saw way more funny stuff in this than any Lord of the Rings.
Definitely a thing to remember is that in Lord of the Rings, those were the best of the best people that met at the Fellowship. They were the High Elves and the only dwarves that would even be willing to go to Rivendell, and the men that were respect. Whereas these are just 12 dwarves, just fun-loving, obnoxious, food-eating, song-singing dwarves.
That's right.
I love them. They're my favorite race.
Have you lost your virginity yet?
Yes.
Okay, alright,
I know. Surprising, I know.
One of the things that I thought was probably the most different also from the original is that it started out with a lot more backstory and a lot more happened before you even got to the adventure. The point where he goes, I'm going on an adventure, was 58 minutes into the movie, which is
a very
long,
good point.
but I think it worked. I think it didn't feel as long as I expected it to.
See, that's my one critique with the film, is that because it is more family oriented, for me it felt a little indulgent to let it go on as long as it did, especially when you know that this is a little bit more geared towards children and them being able to see it. And we had some kids in the front row, and they sat through it and it was good, but I would imagine that if you took some younger kids after an hour and a half into it, 2 hours into it, they're I'm hitting the eject
Which was kind of me. Halfway into the movie, honestly, I was not 100% on board. It took me to the point, I think, where I was oh, this movie has started, was when we see the Shire. Everything before that, I was I'm kind of into this world, but once we saw the Shire, that was kind of the moment where I was into the movie. But again, that's 30, maybe 40 minutes into the movie.
For me, as a fan of the books and as the original trilogy, I was enthralled the whole time. Mainly because this isn't the war-torn world that we're used to seeing in the other trilogy, and they spend a good 45 minutes showing us how beautiful this place is, and how really when the dwarves were at the height of their prime, what they could do, how they mine and the civilizations they built.
Yeah, that's one of the main things about the movie is I see the Lord of the Rings poster and it's this, there's all these characters. As a 9-year-old, I had the Lord of the Rings poster on my wall, and you'd see Legolas and Aragorn and all these people, this whole amazing cast. And when you see the Hobbit poster, it's just 12 dwarves, all stacked up, these goofy...
Felt like I was looking at the labyrinth.
I've got an idea.
Go ahead.
Name the dwarves. Now. Try to name
Boggy, Shaw...
There was Clowen, and then there's this two... Kinnery and Finnery.
It's Feely, Keely, Owen, Glowin, Ballin, Beaufort, Bimber.
You've never touched a girl. You've never touched a girl in your life.
You can touch my hand right now.
This is a moment, guys.
This is so... We're gonna take a 5-minute break. We'll be right back. When I see the poster for The Hobbit, it immediately strikes me as oh, dwarves. I don't really know if I'm on board with the idea of a dwarf movie. It's all these dwarves. However, there was a moment in the movie when they're all kind of down in the dumps, and Thorin comes up and gives the best dwarf sexy glare. Turns his head, and in that moment I was yeah, these guys are awesome.
There's this one moment where you just turn to me and you're he is the most badass 4-foot-tall person ever.
Yeah, you wouldn't I look at the poster and I'm oh, that's gonna be lame, dwarf movie. But they kick ass in the movie. They're really cool, and you're you're actually on board with them. You're actually like hoping that they make it through it, and you're like rooting for them, which I did not expect I would be doing.
You had just this herd of underdogs kind of going together.
Yeah.
And while Lord of the Rings was fantastic, and I loved watching the
Everyone's at the top of their game.
You're just watching, and I feel like even Gandalf is even more of a fuck up in this.
Like he's still Gandalf the Grey.
It's kind of a moment where the dwarves are like, oh shit, can Gandalf really like handle this? Like, is Gandalf like an actual wizard?
How many dragons you killed, Gandalf?
Give me numbers, I want to buy it.
Come on, I want this. He's like, hey, guys. The power of magic in any movie is very hard to specify. Like, for instance, one of my big things I didn't like about the Avengers was the fact that Loki, like, he's magic. Like, what can't he do? And that's the one thing that I love Gandalf, and I thought, for Ian McKellen being the age that he was amazing. Like, phenomenal and funny.
I think they show you towards the end what Gandalf can't do. Like, he can't actually fly and save them from the end. He has to call upon his friends. He can't actually fly and save them from the end. He has to call upon his friends, the Eagles.
Always the Eagles.
Even Tolkien, like, himself doesn't like, or didn't like, how much he made them into a plot device. Because, like, he backed himself into a corner, and he's like, bring in the Eagles, we'll save the day.
Again with the Eagles, Gandalf, like, come on. I mean, that's a little thing. If you're gonna buy into this whole world, like, I guess you gotta buy into the Eagles.
They don't answer to humans, and every time Gandalf, like, has to use them, he's begging them, basically saying, I'm at the end of my life, I've helped you out before, please just help me this once. And so the idea of them just
it's happened more than once. My favorite part of this whole movie was, and this is spoiler territory, when Brett from Fly the Conchords showed up. I clapped in the theater, I was like, yes,
good old
yes.
And at the beginning, I wrote down, the first thing I wrote down was, wondering where Brett is. And like, halfway through the movie, I was like, yes, you did it.
I would say I just got lost in like the set direction of things. There's this one shot in particular where Gandalf and Saruman and Galadriel, I was like, did I say her name right? All right,
I know none of these.
They're all sitting together, and they just show this shot of like the place that they're in, and they have this like little moat going through it, and I was just looking at it, I was like, that is such amazing attention to detail.
I mean, when they panned up from the Shire, I could like feel everyone going like, I want that to be a theme park, like I want to go there.
My favorite part was also based on like the visual effects of it all. Whenever you first see like the cave that all the goblins live in. Like, I was so excited to see goblins because they're not orcs, really. They're stupider and more fun. And so, like, to see just a cave full of these, like,
and they're not a democracy.
They're not. They're weird, ugly creatures with a monarch.
One of the things that I noticed, that the main big bad goblin that you see in the trailer falling on all looks like Mama from Honey Boo Boo Child. The whole time I was thinking, that neck crust.
That crust on my mama's neck, I don't know what it is. I guess it just don't scrub her neck when she's taking a bath.
I just look good when I want to look good.
One of my favorite things about the movie that was not even directly in the movie, which is one of the first things I've seen, is the production vlogs that they did on Facebook, on their Facebook and YouTube. They did like 6 or 7 of these 14-minute long production vlogs, which are pretty much like the behind the scenes you'd only get on the most expensive Blu-ray before the movie comes out.
Yeah, which is brilliant.
I liked Lord of the Rings, however, I think if those production vlogs hadn't been set in place and had hyped me up for the movie, I wouldn't have gone to see it midnight. I would have been like, oh yeah, I'll wait. But those really, like, it made me feel a part of it. Because it used to be that, like, only the really, really nerdy nerds would buy the Bluray and watch all the commentaries. All the But it's like, to see all that cool behind the scenes before it happens, it's like, oh, I'm going to go to this movie to see that.
I'm so invested in like what these people are producing.
Yeah, so that was another thing that I just really loved. What about our hate it's? Does anyone have a hate it moment that you were like, oh, I wish that wasn't in there?
I actually hated the sexy glare that you were talking about. I hated it.
What about you?
I can't think of anything right now. I really loved it. I did.
So as a crazy fan of Tolkien, it lived up to what you were hoping for?
I thought so. I mean, it's the same world I'm used to, but it told a different story, and yeah, I wish there would have been a little bit more plot, but they did a great job of like foreshadowing the dragon, letting us know how scary he is, and still giving us a couple of like big events that happened to them, to where we know like Bilbo's more weathered. I would say the one thing I maybe didn't like as much is how mean Thorin was to him for a while. Like, I know that he's a soldier and he's very hardened by battle, but he was kind of being a dick to a little guy that didn't want to go in the beginning.
Yeah, I thought all of them were being a dick by like coming into his house and eating everything. I was literally like, okay, I get that they're gonna go on this awesome journey, it's gonna change his life, but like, come on, man, like that's a lot of food that you're eating. But I wanted like Gandalf to be like, don't worry about it, ka-chink, and like all be back.
No, I
that would have made me so much better.
But I love that they at least clean the dishes. I was like, thank you for making me not hate them.
Well, it's because they're like so nomadic as people, like they think that's okay to just be like, well, I'm staying in this house tonight.
Yeah.
You have food, I will eat it.
Okay, so before the business meeting, we're gonna have a crazy party, be total slobs, but then we'll have our cleanup song and we'll like, and then they like do all this stuff, and then
they started singing.
Yeah, and then like all that cut to we're all really serious smoking pipes. I read a lot of reviews that were like, oh, this movie's great, except for Radagast the Brown.
I love him. He
sets up a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, he was so invested that he was like, I don't care that I might be about to die, I'm gonna make sure that this hedgehog thing lives.
Yeah, take care of my forest.
Yeah, and I
but
was
yet
like,
he can't take care of his hair because he got bird shit all over.
Down.
All
I don't think
over
he cares too much about
No.
that. The amount of new creatures in this, like for somebody who had, if somebody had never seen them, I'm sure they would be amazed. But as somebody who had, like you get to see goblins and you get to see rock giants.
Well,
and
speaking
trolls.
of that, speaking of seeing it for the first time, Gollum was set up so well.
So well. It's so scary. Like I forgot how like actually
creepy,
terrifying he can be. Like as like and you just but it is.
You were waiting all day. You're like,
I want to do
at the end of this day, I'm gonna have that ready. I'm cutting it out. It's not going to go in the episode.
Okay, that's fine.
I think Martin Freeman is going to be so good watching him evolve that character as it goes on.
He is so great. Like, I love Elijah Wood as an actor, and I loved him as Frodo, but you never got to see him, like, being Frodo. And this movie does a great job of showing us, like, Bilboing around. And the scene with Gollum could have been awful. Like that could have dragged because it's at a point in the movie where the stakes are higher than they ever could have been.
And then he's like, oh, I'll just wander off into this cave.
And then there's this just like chunk of the movie where you're devoting to watching Gollum and these riddles. That could have been awful and boring, but it kept us in it and like hyped it up even more, knowing that he's about to get the ring.
In the action sequences, there were so many moments where I was like, oh, that is a PlayStation 2 combo move. Where like Gandalf's just doing something awesome and you're like, oh, that's so cool.
Just how they like escaped from the goblins and like pushing people with ladders and just like knocking them off the sides.
Just like clotheslining them, like, get off this bridge, get off this bridge. Or like,
so cool.
There was one scene where they like are all carrying this ladder and they're like, and then throw the ladder in front of them and use the ladder to run across the like a gap.
Great.
It's like, that was a video game moment and I loved it. Like,
I think awesome. They understand that like a good portion of their audience is like younger guys that want to see those battle sequences. And they know like in this very expositional like movie, you've got to give the fans some service, and they showed us like a battle in the very beginning to let us know like it'll be all right, calm down. Like their battles, this dude uses a stump as a shield and like blocks stuff.
Oh, that was awesome.
I just wrote down Gandalf logic. I don't know what that means.
Wait, I want to just see some of these.
Okay.
I wonder where Brett is.
It's the first thing I wrote.
The movie started when we see the shark.
Child rapeable.
Okay, that's
Sexy dwarf stare.
What sexy dwarf stare? We covered that.
I loved it.
Frodo looks child rapeable. First scene of the movie. First scene of the movie. We see Frodo. It's like, hey, remember this guy? And he's like, probably in his 30s now, and he like still looks like this beautiful, like he could be an underage kid that Gandalf would want to rape. Like he's just glowing like, oh, Bilbo. What is your consensus?
I give it an A. I loved it.
I'm not surprised.
I give it an A.
It would be an A for you.
I would call it a B+, A-. I mean, I like the movies. I'm not a huge fan, but as not a huge fan, I enjoyed it. I'd see it again.
I'm gonna be the dark horse here, and even though I did totally enjoy myself, if I never saw it again, I wouldn't be disappointed, so it gets a C+ for me.
Wow.
Ouch.
Wow.
Okay.
Wait,
Yeah.
so
We
what,
got a big-
what did the Lord of the Rings get if that's a C+?
It was like a C-.
Okay, just not as fantasy.
Yeah,
you,
no,
you can
I
get
know.
the f*** out.
I think it's very much like a very stylized movie, and if you like the style, you'll love the movie.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you probably won't like it.
I think lately I've been disappointed by movies in that the trailer will be something that I completely didn't expect. So
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say if you like the trailer, you'll like this movie. I think it's a good representation of
Yeah.
the movie. It's
Gets you
exactly
in.
what I expected, but I expected to enjoy it, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say go see it if you guys are.
Yeah.
And
see
this-
it in theaters.
This
Yeah.
is a definite, even though it was a C+ for me, if you even have one inkling of seeing this, go and see it in the theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a theater movie.
We did not see it in the high frame rate or IMAX, but
Nope.
I would be up for seeing it again.
I would see it
Yeah.
again in that.
I will never see it again.
So guys, that is it for the Film Rush this week, if we continue to call it that. Next week, we're not sure what we're gonna see, but Sheldon won't be here because he has to go back to Missouri, whatever that is.
It's
Like it's a state.
Whatever that
It is. People live
no,
there.
No,
Nobody does.
No.
Not even my
People.
grandpa
I
who does
disagree.
it.
Comment below if you liked it. If you hated it, just go away.
Yeah.
Why
Why'd
would
you watch it?
Why would you watch?
Stop watching now. Why are
just
you
why
looking at
stop
us
watching
now?
it now. Just leave. Just click away from this
I know.
video.
It'll
Why
be
would you leave
okay.
your negativity in the comments?
You only watched the first 20 seconds, didn't you? Okay.
And then
They're
you
not
went right
listening
to the
to
comments.
this.
Yeah.
They're not even listening.
The
to
people
this.
that are listening to this are kind of like, all right, wrap it up. Let's get going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I love you.
So this was Film Rush.
See you guys next week. What a rush!
We did it.
Quick.
We should go to bed now.
Yeah. I have some.
Because I have
Seven.
work at 7:30.
There's a mustache on the ground.
Ooh. We all have winning smiles. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Ding.